All right, everybody, let's talk again about Vitaly Zdorovetskiy. We got people here saying that the Philippines is going harsh on him. They're dropping the law on these nuisance bloggers, and President Marcos is going to send him to prison, long time. Here you got this caption that says, "The infuriating actions that a foreign vlogger has been doing to our countrymen, and how it makes everybody mad." And you know what? The irony of Marcos Jr. saying such a thing when his father, dictator Senior Marcos, committed so many crimes against this country and its people, and he continues to deny his father's crimes ever happened, crimes which he participated in, and he ended up fleeing with his family to Hawaii. And then they came back years later, and then he wormed his way back into politics until he was able to get himself elected president of the Philippines, not because he cares about the Philippines, but as a way to clear his family name. He said that in public in Switzerland, at Davos, like a few years ago. He said, I ran for president because I want to clear my family name. That's what he did. That's what he did. And he still owes the Philippines billions in taxes. Billions in taxes that he will never pay. The guy's a criminal, and the irony of this guy saying the infuriating actions that a foreign vlogger has been doing to our countrymen, when this guy and his family have done so much harm to the Philippines, the irony is just off the charts. But I'm going to tell you the real reason that they're prosecuting Vitaly and going hard on him, and why Marcos is talking about him. And it ain't because the Philippines is a nation with rules of law, where rule of law prevails, and that they just drop the hammer and they're hard on criminals. That is not the case. The Philippines is a nation of laws, but it is not a nation where rule of law takes precedence. Rule of law says the law applies to everybody. Everybody's equal under the law, and it applies to you no matter what. And in the Philippines, this is just not the case. If it was, this guy would never, ever have been elected president. But 31 million people believed the lies of his campaign, his whitewashing campaign, to say the golden years of the Philippines were when his father was dictator. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about rule of law here. And the reason they are they are prosecuting Vitaly and going hard on him is not because of rule of law, but because of the scope of his crime, is that it was international. His video was seen all over the world. And, well, what are they going to do? That's what they're upset about. They're upset about face. They have lost face to the world, and they got to do something about this nuisance blogger, Vitaly. The infuriating actions that a foreign vlogger has been doing to our countrymen. Give me a break. The Philippines has its own nuisance streamers. You have one group that did a kidnapping prank. You had another guy that laid out on the road, and that was his TikTok prank. I'm going to lay in the middle of the street, and I don't even know what happened if they got arrested or not. But I'm going to show you a couple articles about how the rule of law just doesn't exist in the Philippines, and how the police force, the Philippine National Police, treats crimes. Let's go. We're going to go over here because I don't have the stuff to do a real blog, a real video. So here we go. This is a recent story. 3 on motorcycle killed in collision with truck in Negros Oriental. Horrible story, right? Let's read it. It's very short. It's very short. Here it is. It's 3 paragraphs. 3 persons on a motorcycle were killed after they collided head-on with the oncoming truck in Negros Oriental. The 3 riders ended up under the truck and died on the scene. And here's the most important part, this one right here. The Zamboanguita police said the victims' families have decided not to press charges against the truck driver. The owner of the truck has reportedly pledged to assist with funeral expenses. Now, if the Philippines was a nation where the rule of law took precedence and prevailed, this guy would have been prosecuted. He would have been held. They would have investigated. They would have tried to decide if he should be prosecuted. But no. Instead, he settled with the family because he decided, I'll pay the funeral expenses. We don't know the case of what happened. It could have been because they were speeding, that it's their fault. It could have been he was driving recklessly because it's his fault. In the Philippines, so many truck drivers are overloaded. They may have license expired. They might have faulty brakes. But we're never going to know what happened here because they just threw it out. They're not going to prosecute him because of my feelings. The family settled. Blood money. So you can literally kill somebody with your car, with your big old truck, and get away with it if you settle with the family. That is not indicative of a nation where rule of law prevails. Now let's look at another one. This is another recent story. PNP to Filipino Chinese traders. Stay calm. All right. What's happening with that? What's happening with that? In the wake of the recent kidnapped slay of a Filipino-Chinese steel magnate, the PNP has reassured members of the Filipino-Chinese community of their safety and security. Wow. They're saying, stay calm. Stay calm. And then what does the story say? The PNP has documented 13 kidnapping cases since January, 8 of the incidents involving Chinese nationals as victims. That is a problem. 13 kidnapping cases since January, 8 which involve members of the Filipino-Chinese community. And the police response is, stay calm. It's an isolated incident. That's what they'll say. It's an isolated incident. No, let's go over here. Let's go over here to the next one. This is a story that took place in March. Slovakian tourist in Boracay was murdered. She came to visit a wedding of a friend, and she went out with a dude afterwards, and she didn't make it. She didn't make it back. And what is the police's response? The police's response is, it's an isolated incident. Don't worry. And you know what? It might be an isolated incident because it is Boracay, and Boracay is generally safe. But for the police to come out and say, it's an isolated incident, that's no way to reassure the public. Now, they did catch two suspects, and who knows what's going to happen with them. The state's probably going to prosecute them, but who knows? The point is, you can kill somebody with your car in the Philippines and get away with it if you pay the blood money. The police, even in the face of a lot of crime, a kidnapping, they tell people to stay calm. And when someone is murdered, they say, oh, it's an isolated incident. Don't worry about it. Crime is on the way down. Because they don't care about rule of law here. It's a nation with laws, but there is no rule of law here. So let's go back to Marcos here. Now, with the PNP, they'll say stuff like, they are a corrupt organization to the core. Very corrupt. Lots of you'll have cops that'll extort people, that'll rob people, sometimes kill people. They'll deal drugs, whatever. Involved in really shady stuff. And when they're caught, the police say, it's just an isolated incident. It's just a few bad eggs. Because they don't care. They want to protect themselves, and they don't want to deal with reality that they're a corrupt organization. And back to Marcos here. The infuriating actions that a foreign vlogger has been doing to our countrymen. That is not why Vitaly is being prosecuted. He's being prosecuted because of the nature of the crimes. These guys want to save face in front of the international community. If this guy had any dignity whatsoever, any respect as a human being, he would admit his father's crimes and he would pay his tax bill. But you know, he's up there talking about the infuriating actions that a foreign vlogger has been doing to our countrymen. And in the next slide over, he says, wouldn't anybody be mad at that? Let's take a look at that. He says, wouldn't any Filipino be mad at that? Whether these actual jokes or not, what Filipino wouldn't get mad at these? Even if they're jokes, what Filipino won't get mad at these? And you know, the fact that Filipinos aren't mad at this dude for not paying his taxes, for lying about his family's past, for whitewashing the dictatorship from, 72 to 80, and then beyond, you know, it's really infuriating to see this guy talk nonsense about we're going to prosecute this guy when he owes the country billions in taxes. His father was a murderer. He covers up for his father's crimes. His mother is a thief, and he covers up for his mother's crimes too. And the Filipino people don't care. They voted for him. 31 million people bent over and voted for him because the rule of law doesn't matter in the Philippines. There is no rule of law. But there is the rule of face. You have to have face. You have to keep face. And Vitaly ruined the face. He ruined the face of the Philippines. He made them look bad. Can't have that. No Filipino would have that. You're not going to make me look bad. And that's the real reason they're prosecuting Vitaly. And that's what people aren't going to tell you because they don't understand that aspect of the Philippines. They just don't understand it. They think Philippines just like anywhere else, except maybe they're a little tougher. They're going to get a little tough on these nuisance streamers. No, they're not. This guy is being prosecuted for one reason and one reason alone. The Philippines needs to save face in front of the international community. That's it.